It's a beautiful morning. I think I'll pull out the saddle and just smile. Just taking some clean, fresh air for
Smooches, everybody. Sorry I haven't been here for a couple weeks. I know I said I wanted to do it once a week, but I went through a week of having a lot of body pain, back pain, so forth and so on. And I don't know, I kind of got a feeling like um, this being a chore to have to get to. And then I kind of got, if anybody knows me, it doesn't take much for me to lose interest in something if I stop. Whether that's the Gemini in me, ascendant Gemini on top of that, but and whether I just wasn't, because I wasn't feeling right and my energy was all off, and I've really worked hard this week to try to raise my energy. I didn't want to get on here and be negative, and I didn't want to get on here feeling like this was a chore. This is supposed to be something I'm supposed to be having fun with, or, enjoying. Anyways, maybe not fun because some of the subjects. So I just rethought about how I want to do this. I'm going to do it when I feel like I want to do it. And as far as the box goes, I was hoping to get a little bit of feedback, which when I talk to some people on the phone that do check out the channel, people that I know, they make suggestions. Like my twin brother Bill suggested I talk about the book that I wrote, which I will do. And I know the last time I was supposed to talk about, my experiences with an abusive stepfather, and that was kind of heavy for me to take on for last week. And even in thinking about that, what I want to say, I have some personal experiences with it, but a lot of it too involves my mom, and I kind of feel like maybe this isn't the platform for me to talk about what I saw between them or anything, because it's not really, it's very personal to her, and she does watch some of the channels and stuff. So, I'll just talk a little bit about that. Um, my mom married him when me and my twin were probably 4, I want to say, because I know we weren't in school yet. I know I liked his parents. I did spend some time with his mom and dad before his dad died, which was just within, I think, within a year of my mom marrying him. He was a football champion kind of guy, and then he went into the Marines. He was a big guy. He moved furniture for a living, and what goes around comes around, I suppose, because here he was almost like a hometown hero. And I know that he really lost it after his father passed because they were really close, but that's no excuse. I do know from what other people have told me that he was abusive before my mom married him. Anyways, and I had an experience with him that before he started the abuse, that really turned me off of him from the beginning. And I don't feel like he really went out of his way to have a relationship with us much, us kids, because mom had 5 kids at that time, but my older sister and brother were with their dad at the time that they got married. My mom and Bob. And we lived in a housing development that was next to the elementary school that I went to. And there was this walkway, the cement walkway that went through a little bit of a woods area and then right into our development. And, we lived on the outskirts of the development. That was just, you turn left off that sidewalk and we were just a few houses down on the left. I do remember that. Anyways, so I was in elementary school, and I remember getting sick in school, actually on my teacher. She was playing piano, and I was telling her I wasn't feeling good, and she wanted me to come and sit next to her while she played, and I got sick on her lap, which wasn't good. So all I know is that he showed up to come and get me. He walked over and to get me, and on the way back, he didn't walk with me. He didn't carry me. I wasn't feeling good. I walked behind him and just followed him, and then when we got home, here I was, this little kid and sick, and he told me I had to get up on the chair and wash the few dishes that were in the sink before I could go lay down. So even as a young kid, I thought, yeah, I don't like this man. So the way he treated my mom, yeah, there were times where he was kind of funny in that we used to go to this place called Tilson Lake that had this roller skating rink. It was a lake with a high dive. Had a lot of fun. He was kind of fun, although he threw me off the deck there, dock, when he realized I didn't know how to swim, to teach me how to swim, and I did learn how to swim. But he would get a little snockered and get on that roller skating rink with us, and we'd do a whip. And so there were times where it's like I didn't hate him all the time. I don't feel like I ever really looked at him like he was a father figure. He was just a male figure. I remember Mom, for whatever reason, talking him and his best friend Smitty into taking me with them to down to Yankee Stadium. I don't remember who was playing or anything. I was a little kid, and I wasn't really a football, or not football, baseball. I wasn't a sports kid anyways. I mean, he he just loved all sports, and they used to have those bobbleheads, and I remember us having a mantle, and he collected them, and that was kind of fun because you'd go along and hit all their heads, so you had all these baseball and football bobbleheads bob at the same time. But anyways, I remember them drinking. I mean, that's one thing I remember about him, is that, he drank a lot. He did drink a lot of beer. I didn't see him like drinking. I don't remember seeing him drink hard liquor, but him and Smitty drank a good amount of beer that day, and I remember them peeing in the parking lot. And I don't even going to the baseball game. You'd think he had his kid with him, who was supposed to be his kid anyways, and I just don't remember even having a conversation or him explaining the game, or I was just there. Anyways, and the one thing about it, seeing my mom go through there, and I don't remember being so much frightened as being, wondering what the hell was going on. Why was he doing that? Hitting my mom. Not just hitting him. He led into her pretty good. Cops were called more than once to our house, and Mom wore sunglasses quite a few times. So I'll just say that. But I always wondered whether I would ever, as I got a little older, I mean, I didn't trust, that just added to the whole, I didn't trust men growing up, or relationships. And I often thought about whether I would ever put myself in that position of letting a man do that to me. And I can honestly say no, because I was in Germany and I was with just a friend. We were good friends. I knew him in Texas when I was stationed there, and he ended up going to Europe too, getting stationed to come and see me. And we were at a soccer game, just standing down. We weren't sitting down, we were just standing. And we were joking around, and you can kind of shove each other a little bit, joking and stuff like this. Well, he didn't mean anything by it, but I remember he just reached over and slightly did that to my face, and I snapped. It had nothing to do with him, I know that, and I just proceeded to smack the shit out of him for doing that to me, and then I just walked off, and thank God he was a good enough friend to chase after me and say, what the hell was that all about, and so we had a long talk, and it was very nice to have that conversation with a male. And unfortunately he was the one who proved that point, that I wouldn't put up with something like that, thank God. Because I know, as you go through life, people are always saying you end up following the footsteps of, your parents, of doing this or doing that, and that was one thing I did not want in my life. I knew that. So, okay, well, that's, conversations like this would be so much better if I had some questions or things like that I could answer. like I said, I don't want to go into detail about things that I've talked to with my mom, because if she were here and she'd say, okay, and we had the conversation together, that'd be a different thing. But I want to speak for her, and I don't want to cause her to get upset over it, because she had to live it more than I did. But yeah, okay, enough of that. So, my brother wanted me to talk about my book. It's called Geronimo. Actually, I wrote it a few years ago now. I didn't set out to be an author, to write a book. My husband, who was 25 years older than myself, he developed Alzheimer's, and before it got too bad, he actually developed what's called, I think it was called sundowners, where he'd wake up in the middle of the night and he'd be looking for something, and it, of course, he'd wake me up, and I'd settle him back down, and he'd be able to go right back to sleep, and I'd be wide awake. So I chose that time to just start writing down. I was on my computer, and I just would think about something that has bothered me through my life, and I'd start writing about it. I said previously that I would write it in letter form, almost like letters to God and stuff, and it kind of evolved, and I would jump from one thing to another, think about this situation, and maybe it had something to do with that situation, and I was just typing it all out, and it didn't, it was kind of scattered. But even in that scattered kind of phase, I kind of started looking at it. I think it was when I got thinking about the situation with Steve, and where I talked about where I was living with a psychic out in California. If you haven't seen that video, it's the one about Marlene, and that case that her group was working on, of the guy that got murdered. And I took him into my meditation, blah, blah, blah. So, I kind of started writing about that situation. And just something evolved. I couldn't pinpoint it, but it just kind of felt like when I started kind of looking at some of the things I was writing, and I just kind of felt like, this could kind of take a story form. So I kind of regrouped, looking at some of the things I wrote, and I just gave, fake names to situations, and it just took, I took things out of a chronological order, assigned names to the people I knew that were in the book, who I was talking about and stuff, and I just kind of started writing it like in a story form. I don't know how to explain it. It just must have been the right time. It was something that really took me away from the situation of what I was going through with my husband. That was my time. So like every night I woke up in the middle of the night, and that's what I would do. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep, but I didn't feel like I needed it during that time neither, because I really looked forward to when I got up. I said to myself, I'm going to at least write a page a day. And sometimes I wrote a whole lot more than that. Sometimes I didn't, but I just dedicated that time, and it was like a whole year, one whole year that I did this, and it became a story. I will say that I ended up rewriting it several times, because as time as well, okay, so I had a friend that was a publisher, or retired publisher for self-published books, and she was a good friend. So I asked her if she would read what I wrote to see if it was worth me redoing it, and fine-tuning it, and etc., pushing it, and at the time she was like, because she was also a historian and all kinds of things that she's involved with. So she explained to me it might take me a while to get to it, just be patient with me, and I had no problem with that. I wasn't going anywhere, and it's not like I intended for I guess somewhere in there was an intention set that I wanted to do this because it was fairly easy compared to what I have listened to with other authors and such, how long it can take. Um, so she called me within just a couple of days, and she told me how much she was enjoying reading it. That yes, it needed a lot of editing and everything, but so far she had found it really good. And within maybe another couple of days, she called me back and she had finished it, and couldn't say enough good things about it. Because of our previous conversation, I really believed it, because she said she was so busy that she might not be able to get to it, or it might take her a while to get through it, because it was like, geez, at that time it was probably twice the size of what I actually ended up with. So I felt like she was interested in it to go through it that quickly. So she really encouraged me, and then I reached out to, you know, I didn't have a lot of confidence in my technical writing, you could say, to edit it myself. I wanted, if I was going to do this, I wanted it to be better than what I could do on my own. So I reached out to the smartest person, or that I thought was the smartest person I knew at the time, that would be objective. And so that was Fred, and he was kind enough to say, sure, and he was really encouraging during the time that I was writing it, and gave great advice. And actually, the beginning of the book kind of, you know, he really had a long talk with me about how the first pages, the first page or whatever, should really capture you. And just that conversation that I had with him really turned around how I started the book. So I really appreciated his input. It was, yeah, it's still needs some work. It could be better. And I've gone through and read it again, even though I rewrote the book, fine tuning it. I did talk to another guy that was a publisher that worked kind of like through Amazon, things like this. And he definitely said, that was before I think I talked to Fred. Um, he definitely said that it was way too long and such. So, I mean, I went from, like, I want to say over 900 pages down to, what is there, 500? No, not even. Um, yeah, no. Okay, I'm exaggerating. I think it was actually over 500 pages, and now it's basically 290 pages. Um, and it just worked out. It's not 100% all my experiences, but I would say it's probably 80%. I don't know. People have asked me that before. How much? It's like a good portion of it, in one way or another, comes from experience, and that's what they say. If you're going to write something, and I truly believe in when people say everybody has a story to tell. Just so happens that the thing with Stephen was a little bit different than a lot of other people's experiences, but that's what you go on, I guess. And it really, you know, helped me to really look at myself a little bit more, and to understand things. It was just like writing the letters to God, that, once you start writing about something, it just helps you see it a little bit clearer. And, I was grateful that good amount of people did read it. That was in my family, that was encouraging. My mom read it, and I thought for sure that she'd be upset with me, because I tried to be as truthful about certain situations I was writing about. And some of that experience definitely was about my mom and her relationships and stuff. And she was pretty good with the whole thing. She said she cried a little bit about it, and I felt bad, but at the same time I felt good that I did try to be as honest as possible about things. And she was very encouraging, and I was really kind of proud of her for reading it, and not being so hurt understanding that that's my story, how I saw things. Let's see what else. I don't know if I should say details about the story or not, but it's about a young girl who's a runaway. Her name is Dana, and yeah, it is a different kind of story. Um, God, I hate to give too much away. If okay, she ends up running away. She does end up having a encounter with a gentleman, things that I've talked about before. I won't even call him a gentleman, a man that sexually assaulted her. But she kept going on until she got to California, and eventually she ended up meeting the psychic. Well, actually, in San Francisco, she met a young guy, Angus. And he did exist, but he in a different situation altogether. But she ends up going with him down to Los Angeles, and it's his brother that's missing, and his brother's kind of the Steve character. And in that, I'm the story, I'm able to talk about the meditation because his so-called aunt, who's not really his aunt, is the psychic, and the experiences basically that I write of Aunt Martha in the book are a lot of the experience of what I actually had with her and the meditations and such. And then the story takes a different tone altogether because in it there is another attack. I just, if anybody does decide they want to read it sometime or whatever, I'd hate to say too much about the next part because it does take you by surprise. And a lot of people have asked me of the second incident. Like my sister Donna read it and she felt really bad because she's like, I didn't know you went through that. And I said, well, I didn't really go through that. The first incident is really what happened. But when you go through an incident like what actually happened to me, because it lasts with you for so long and it affects you in so many ways, there's sort of a death there, and there's how I describe this second attack is basically symbolically what I feel like I went through. Geez, I don't know how to explain that, but it was just as damaging as if he beat the hell out of me and put me in the hospital and broke every bone, and it just stayed with me. So there's a lot in the second part of the book that's kind of symbolic for what all happened. And I not at the time, I don't feel like I was consciously intentionally writing certain things, but when I went back and read it, it made so much more sense of, I just kind of let things flow after a while. And anybody that goes into that space, whether it's like a deep meditation going into things, and I've been there before with things. That's how I created the augury board, is when I just let go and I just, for instance, when the situation happened where I was assaulted, I mean, it was pretty bad. The man was willing to kill me for sure, and I think he did kill someone before. I mean, just the way it happened, and he knew what he was doing. Anyways, see, I just lost my train of thought because my mind went there. Okay, that's what I was going to say. The way it happened and what he made me do, I did kind of put that into the book a bit because I don't know how I survived. I mean, I told him something, and I did something that I just physically didn't think I was capable of. I mean, I just feel like my spirit kind of took me out. Even though I was alive, I was capable, but something else took over, and I just survived myself through it. but I was, I felt like I had to have been somewhere else to just get through it. I don't know how to explain that, but without getting too graphic about things, um, I mean, as soon as he let me, I mean, he, thank God he did bring me back to the road and let me out. Um, and as soon as he pulled away, I just got so physically sick, like it all just came out of me, um, of what had happened. Like I, I was back with me, kind of like up to then I was just numb, and I just, um, so I don't know what else to say about that. So I think in writing the book, it really did help me um, look at that a little different. Um, it did help me to see more positive things that I had had in my life versus just a lot of negativity and stuff. It was a good experience all the way around. It was a good experience. I only self-published. Um, So it's not like you could go to Amazon and get the book or anything. If anybody else is interested, please send me a note or a comment or something, or and I'll be happy to arrange something like that because I got boxes uh, in my. I tried promoting it. When you self-publish, you have to do everything yourself. So I've gone to the coffee houses and I've done the book reading um, and to the library. And I don't like it. I just. It's not really my thing. I have set out a lot of books to production companies and things like that. Some books I got back, some I didn't, but I did try to put it out there, and I just figured if it was supposed to be more than what it was to me, that's fine. And I didn't care about the expense of it. I mean, it was, I spent the money, and that's all there is to it. I am totally grateful that I got the opportunity to do it. I also want to give a big thank you to, like, this is my sister's granddaughter, Lily, who's in the photograph. Um, and I mean, that was pretty interesting. The photographer, Marika, who was a good friend of mine, who I did readings for her and her family. She's the one who did the cover for me. And this house was up the street from the house that my husband and I lived in. And it's so funny because when I stopped to ask him, because I described in the book at the beginning the neighborhood I grew up in the Heights in Newburgh. And, I can remember the wrought iron fences walking home. And my sister's granddaughter is about the same age that we were when we lived up there at that time. Anyways, so I had asked him if we could take photos there at his house, and he was very gracious and let us into the house and told us about the house. And then when I told him what the book was, he asked me what it was about and stuff, which I gave him a copy of it when it was all done. I told him, I explained Newburgh or whatever. Well, it turns out that he had in his house from a church, he had a friend, if I can remember the story right, he had a friend that was from the Newburgh area, and her family had something to do with a church that burnt down or something, and in that rubble they found the stained glass window thing that she ended up giving to him. And when I told him about, Newburgh, he's like, oh my God, I got this thing. I love this thing. And he showed it to me. And it's like, so there was a connection there. And I thought, okay, this is the house I'm supposed to do this. Because from day one, that's the house that I pictured as being like what I wanted on the cover. Okay, I don't know how long I've been going, 28 minutes. All right, so if you have any questions about the book or anything, please write a comment or ask a question. It's really hard when I'm having this one-sided conversation. Not that I mind talking, but so, if you ever feel like you've got a story to tell, to me, it's well worth the time to do it and see what comes from it. Okay, so I'm going to do a 3-card reading. I'm not going to pick from the box. I'm just going to see how I feel this next week. Uh, take it from there, I guess. Well, okay. We'll just take a second here. I think next week I'm going to talk about the Augury board, something that I created, do a reading from that. Okay. Okay. All three cards were reversed, but I think let me see. Oh, nice. Okay. I was just pulling out my cards to see whether they were reversed, but I kind of set them out there and I didn't know whether I put them this way or that way, so it doesn't matter, but I still pulled the card, and it was the sun card, which we discussed before, which really gives us sun shining on us, giving us energy, giving us the kind of thumbs up for what we're doing, what we're involved in, what we want to start. Okay. That's what I've been looking for, is some energy, get me going. Okay, and it's funny that in the past, of course, I say this for all of us, but a lot of times, of course, my energy is in it. It's going to talk about it, and in the past, it's bringing up the Emperor card, the number 4. That's supposed to be the father, the brother. Bill's the one that suggested. I mean, a lot of um, this past week has been about male energy and everything. On top of that too, trying to figure out what I would say about Bob. My real father, his wife just passed too during this period of time, and of course that got me thinking about my own father, and um, so forth and so on. So it makes sense for me anyways for the Emperor card to be in the past, because there's been a lot of me thinking about things and males in my life, and um, you know talking about the book and everything that has a lot to do with that kind of energy also, and the role that they played in my life. I thank God for my husband. We met later in life. I mean, I was in my 50s when we got married and everything. And, I count my blessings for him coming into my life. And that was definitely a positive on the male side. Um, okay. Um, so in the current position is Knight of Swords. And it's a card that's... if you look at this card, well, you can't really tell. He's actually running towards the past, ready to gallop into things and go to war. And, it's kind of clumsy. And, uh, it's fine to face the past and try to be a spiritual warrior as far as what I'm doing here. It's just not good to stay in that space too long. Um, you know, I got to read all these 3 cards together, because in the future is the Ace of Swords. So the Knight of Swords, that's about communication. Ace of Swords, that's about communication. And of course, the Emperor, he uses all of his tools, including the sword, he's supposed to be the father figure. If he's in a positive light. He's the one that's going to encourage us and, you know, help us to learn and to you know, to be able to uh, fend for ourselves over time, to give us good word as far as experiences that we'll be having and how we deal with things. You know, the masculine energy to conquer our fears, conquer whether we're talking about education or anything that we do. How do we go about being the strongest we can be and taking it on and, you know, conquering it, sort of thing. So that's all fine and dandy if you've got good father figure, you know, in that position that helps us. Where in a lot of our cases, not just mine, but a lot of people, you know, you got really good fathers, and then you got fathers that just aren't around or don't really care or don't take the time, or, you know, uh, and they can really screw us up for a long time if we allow it. And that to me is what the knight is saying. It's like, okay, you've gotten mad, you've thought about it enough, you've done battles over it, and believe me, I've screamed at several males in my life over situations. I always unfortunately wait until I'm too mad and then I really do scream. um, but with the Ace of Wands being the future, it's like, you know, there's got to be a time where we can let it go and just move forward and start with something else. Not carry that forward with us, especially into new relationships, and you know, taking that energy and bringing it into new relationships, and sometimes even holding it against somebody that has nothing to do with it. You know, yeah, I mean, new relationships might trigger old feelings about things, but, you know, you've got to put it into perspective. You know, you've got, if someone is from the future that you meet in a relationship, a father figure, a male, brother, whatever, says something, does something that triggers you, you know, put it into perspective. Yeah, so you can take a step back and think about why you're mad and kind of try to figure it out. And, you know, maybe this person's energy is too much like the energy of people that, you know, you've dealt with in the past, and you don't want to do that again. You're recognizing it. Fine. Make the decision. I'm sorry, this isn't working for me, and walk away, you know. Or say, okay, that was one little statement, that wasn't intentional, whatever. And say, okay, he's not responsible, but thank you for showing me. You're the mirror for why that's still triggering me for this situation from the past. Deal with it a little while and then let it go. A lot of what I'm feeling right now is, oh my God, just let it go. You know, it amazes me with as much work as I've done trying to evolve spiritually. There's still a lot of triggers out there. There's still a lot of things that I feel like I'm just not able to get past. That's the human experience, though, and I've got to give myself a break. Just like if you're doing the same thing, you feel like, yeah, I've done a lot of work. I feel like I should be so much more involved. It's the human experience. It's, you know, maybe it's not so much of us being able to completely let something go to where we never think about it, but the time that we spend with it should be less. And maybe that's the message here. It's like, you know, that's fine, dandy. You've got armor, you've got protection, you can recognize things now, and you know, there's the sword. Cut it loose as quick as you can. Thank you for that experience, and go on. That's kind of how I feel about it right now with these three cards. It's just like, okay, we don't have to, you know, spend as much time with something that has affected us as much when it first happened. Oh, you know, I was just thinking about something earlier. Thank you for reminding me. And it applies here. When, you know, I don't know if anybody else has, you know, I suffer depression sometimes, you know, and I really have to work to get that turned around and to get my energy going again. One tool that I do know works is that I try to hone in on something that brought me joy, that made me laugh or giggle or whatever the case may be. and from my past. And if I can do that, that brings that little bit of joy and light in, because when you think about something from your past that did that, and you really put yourself there, really on everything else, and really experience that again in your memory, your body doesn't know the difference between the memory and what's actually going on. So when you can bring yourself to that point where it makes you giggle again or smile brightly about it again, your body's thinking that you're experiencing that again, and it's bringing you joy. So even if you can do that a little bit each day, you know, helps change the energy around you if you're just feeling down and stuff like that. Well, the same thing goes on here. If we focus too much, if we spend too much time in those negative spaces, more time than what's needed, um, your body's thinking you're experiencing it again. Your being's thinking you're experiencing it again, and of course you're going to keep that negative. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, um, of course, when something, something were to happen today, yes, I'm going to spend more time tomorrow going over it and having those emotions and feeling it, da, 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 da. But as each day goes by, it should become lighter and lighter and lighter, and uh, we should, uh, maybe not every day it'll be lighter, but as you go on, hopefully you can get past it. Meaning, you don't have to live in that moment every day. You can continue to live and move forward. And yes, there's going to be triggers and everything, but if you deal with them and you look at them and say, okay, I've been there, I understand that, thank you for reminding me, I'm going to keep going this way. It's almost like playing little games with yourself over it, but it will get better. It's just, I don't spend as much time in those negative spaces as I used to. I still do go there occasionally, but I recognize it a whole lot sooner. And it is my hope that, uh, when I have my passing or whatever, I have my own beliefs about it. I believe that there's kind of a review on things, and uh, maybe it won't be so heavy for me when I go to naturally pass. That's all. Um, okay, I think that's about it for today. I give you thanks. I give thanks to all of you for being present. I pray that you go forward in your day feeling more connected to all that is around you. Let the light of spirit shine in you, through you, and all around you. And if you pass somebody in the store or on the street or whatever, and they look like they're just down, you know what I mean? Look down or not a smile on their face, take a chance and just go, hi, how are you? And help shine a light around them a little bit. Maybe somebody needs that. So anyways, okay. Blessed be. So be it. Bye.